In this lecture, we want to look at the Focus Scope QML component. This component is very helpful when you are using external components in your main QML file. Let's go to Qt Creator, create a new project, and show you what I mean. Okay, so here we are in Qt Creator. We are going to create a new project. We call it Focus Scope Demo. Hit Next. Choose your Qt version here and your desktop kit as usual. Let's change the title to say Focus. We want to create a rectangle component inside. We give it a width of 300, a height of 50, a color of beige. I love beige. And we make it focused. Inside we are going to put a text component. The text is going to say default by default, and it's going to be centered in the parent. Its parent happens to be this rectangle here. Let's call this container rect. Because we want this rectangle to tell us when it has focus, we are going to use the keys attached property. And we are going to check if it is the key number 1 that is clicked. So you already know how to do this. If event key equals qt key 1. Be careful on the spelling that you use here. Here it is lowercase k. Here it is capital K. We are going to set the text of this text component to let us know that we have pressed on the key 1 here. So let's give it an ID. And we are going to say text ID text equals. We want to test for at least another key. If the key is 2, we are going to say we pressed on key 2. Else, we are going to say pressed on another key. And we are going to say whatever key it is by adding its key to this string here. So we're going to say event key. Let's run the application. Okay, we have our beige rectangle. I click on 1, pressed on 1. I press 2, press 2. I press some other key and it gives me the key that I pressed. This is what we want. So let's say we want to instantiate our rectangle component multiple times and we don't want to go copy pasting. We already know how to create custom components. We are going to create an external component of this rectangle and instantiate it whenever we need it in the main QML file. Let's create another QML file. So we're going to add new Qt QML file, Qt Quick 2, and we call it mbutton. It is going to be in this project. So we go in the main QML file and copy our rectangle here. We are going to get rid of this and paste it in here and change the import here to 2.11 because that's the version of Qt Quick we are using. And because we are good QML citizens, we are going to wrap this into an item element. So let's do that. And expose the width of this thing so that we can put it in positioners like row and columns. Its width is going to be container rect ID width, and its height is going to be container height. And we also want to expose this color so that we can specify it whenever we instantiate it in the main QML file. So we are going to use a property alias. And it is going to refer to container rect ID color. And an alias is really a way to give your properties a nickname so that you can use them under that different name. But this time we are defining this alias in the root scope of this item, so it will be available for other components from the main QML file. So what we want to do is to instantiate our mButton component. We are going to say mButton, and you see that it is recognized. So this is the first one, and we are going to instantiate the second one. But for the second one, we want to change the color to green so that we can differentiate them. Remember that we exposed the color property through this property alias. Okay, to position these things nicely, we're going to wrap them into a column component. Copy this and paste it down here. Run the application and see what we get. Which one has focus? Let's click on one, and you see that number one has focus. So let's give the first button focus. Run the application. I click on one, no effect. I click on two, no effect. I click on other buttons, no effect. You see that it seems like neither button has focus. Let's comment this out. Give the second rectangle focus. Run the application. And if we click on one, you see that it looks like the first button has focus, even if we explicitly told the second button to have the focus. This is the problem that comes with using external components in your QML files when transferring focus. Results can be unpredictable when you set focus to your components. To solve this problem, you just have to wrap your components into a focus scope component. So let's do that. Just like this. Let's go to the main file and change it a little bit, because sometimes when you don't change the main QML file, Qt Creator doesn't pick the changes you made in external components. So I'm going to add a space here, run again. Click on one, and you see that the second button has focus. This is what we set here. Let's move the focus to the first button. Like this. Run our application. Click on one, you see one has focus. And you can see that by wrapping your external component into a focus scope, the results of setting your focus property on your component is much more predictable. This is what I wanted you to see in this lecture. If you want to learn more about the focus scope component, you can select it and hit F1. And you're going to have a piece of documentation that you can read, but it just says that focus scope assists in keyboard focus handling when building reusable components. And this is what we just did. This covers all we set out to do in this lecture. In the next chapter, we're going to start and look at JavaScript and see how you can use it to add some interactivity to your QML. And if you noticed, we have been using JavaScript all along, but we are going to explain these things and shed some light on them. I'll see you in the next lecture.